So I'm happy to be here to introduce Jacob. Growing up in Kansas, you learn to have a healthy respect for weather, but you don't fear it. On the contrary, I remember vividly when the storm sirens would wail on their poles and the sky would turn green, boiling like pea soup. My father and I would wander outside along with the neighbors to stand and stare in awe and wonder at the sheer electric energy of a tornadic sky as it pulsed and rolled and tumbled overhead. This is roughly what it's like to read the writing of Jacob Simmons. I love to sit back in a rocking chair on a porch and watch it move. It's not mechanical or monstrous, but it rolls like a thunderstorm, pregnant with the possibility of tornadoes, and I often struggle to find the right words to capture his unique style and vision of the world. Reminding you at times of the beat poets or gonzo journalists like Hunter S. Thompson or Tom Wolfe, as well as contemporary writers like Hanif Abdul-Rakib or Rebecca Solnit. Jacob writes with a palpable joy about complicated ideas and people. His style is ecstatic, impetuous, and filled with riffs and surprises. His sentences are roller coasters. I call him master of the list and the lyrical non sequitur as he makes these associative leaps across the page, and I go running after him, caught in the backdraft of his prose. Jacob's writing is so vibrant and alive that the first two essays he sent out for publication got picked up almost immediately, and one of them, the Rougarou, published in Under the Sun, was nominated for a Pushcart Prize. Aside from his prose stylings, Jacob writes about subjects I often recognize. Though he grew up in California, he has Okie roots and a Midwestern tableau of stories that feel familiar. He too often writes about family he loves but doesn't totally understand, complicated characters in a lifetime of stories. Jacob is a seeker and gatherer of meaning. He moves through the world like someone who understands it's going to disappear, taking little bits to keep close and remember. He has a collection of memories at home, a collection of jars of dirt that he has scooped up from all the places he's traveled, from the Mississippi in the heart of the civil rights conflicts in Oklahoma to Michigan on Tim O'Brien's Rainy River, where he too gazed across the water at Canada and wondered, like many of us are now, what it means to be American. In workshop, Jacob brings a sense of wonder and respect for his peers' work. He's often the biggest fan of his fellow students and isn't afraid to lead the cheers. He's a sponge for learning and a teacher who shares his passion for literature with his students at Kingsburg High School. He's a doting uncle, a guitar picker, and a troubadour. Jacob moves through life, teaches others, and makes art with an intention and generosity that I admire. And he writes about it in ways that leave me standing and staring in awe. Please join me in welcoming and celebrating the good dirt collector and writer, Jacob Simmons.
I appreciate you all being here. I think it's a really special thing to be a part of this program. I really do. And it's because of the people who are in it that I'm going to miss in this setting, in this classroom setting, a great deal. So thank you. I want to thank Michelle Schiller, who is here, who's been my first reader always, and being so supportive throughout these last few years. So thank you, Michelle, and I really appreciate you. Thank you. Is anybody else in here a Peach Blossom kid? No? We just had it, right? It was this week, last week. I was preparing in Peach Blossom. I thought it was the coolest thing to read things, and to be a part of performative literature, and I was told it wasn't cool, and so I wanted to. I quit. Like the first big thing I did as a little kid. I told my teacher, I said I quit the Peach Blossom. I don't want to do that anymore. And so my mom, who's here, she came to pick me up, and my teacher told her, he said, "Ellen, I'm sorry to hear Jacob quit the Peach Blossom." And she goes, "No, he didn't." And I said, "Yeah, I quit, Mom." And she goes, "No, you didn't quit." And I didn't. And so I'm so grateful to you, Mom, and thank you, because I love this stuff. I really do. So thank you. I'm going to read from my thesis a piece that I'm working on called Little John Doe. So I'll just get right into it. This infant was called John Little, quoth he. Which name shall be changed anon, the words will transpose, so wherever he goes, his name shall be called Little John. That's from the Ballad of Robin Hood and Little John. For clarification, I asked my dad if I was born to parents who already owned a VCR. And he laughed and said, son, you were born to parents who borrowed VCRs. In Disney movies, back in the day, came in oversized white plastic boxes with cover art and a synopsis on the sleeve like a hardcover book. And my folks bought our first VCR and a tape of Disney's Robin Hood when I was in kindergarten. Childhood can smell like magnetic oxide and plastic. Adolescence can be a rectangle. It can be black and white. I watched Robin Hood like many children watch what they love incessantly. Little John's my guy. And while Robin is cupcaking in Sherwood Forest with Maid Marian, John is tearing it up with the Hootenanny poor. He dances with friends and loved ones, church mice and rabbits, a turtle and a chicken. He sings the phony King of England and carries on into an animated fade out, and we're led to believe the party lasts all night. Little John bamboozles the powerful corrupt. He hoodwinks the maniacal. He exposes toxic officers of the law for their foolishness and their littleness. And when Robin is imprisoned, a chain around his neck, Little John breaks him free. I root for Little John. His victory is one for counterculture. He's a disruptor, an agitator, a happy outsider. Little John is a charmer and an ally, and he wants to live in a kinder, more peaceful forest. How easy it was to spot what's good when we were children. The character who smiles with all of his face, and the one who loves others, the one who plays in nature, the joyful one, the helpful one, the one who doesn't traffic in fear. And I wonder when the ability to see what's good vanishes for so many folks. I wonder when, if it doesn't vanish, it warps. And Little John becomes an enemy of the people, a loser. When we start to find strength and weakness, and when we become villains, when we become takers. And I wonder when laughter stops and snickering begins, and when lies become a language. And I wonder when our priorities become transposed, like John Little, when we reduce each other and when we love to hate. And Little John lionized Richard I, a crusader, colonizer. And I wonder when this becomes his one redeeming quality. Think of how easy it was to know right from wrong when you knew little about anything else. Existential morality, way back at the beginning, was easy. A rewinder was a symbol of status among VHS watchers. No longer did movie lovers have to go through the anguish of rewinding a video in their VCR. It was a slick convenience, the rewinder. And it was the first technological gadget I can remember coming into being after I was conscious of what existed already. Rewinders were luxuries, and we didn't have one of those, Dad says. Those things got with a fucking program. Movie renters were told to be kind and rewind, and it matters to be able to get back to the beginning in a hurry when we should. Oodalali, it matters the beginning. And I thought a great deal about the end. And what should be done with my body when I'm over. Let my stomach go to the hungry. Let him feel full of chicken wings and pizza, cold cokes and grenadine. My nose to somebody who's abused their own more than I. Someone who hasn't smelled anything in years can pop on my honker and take a big whiff of mint leaves or a pot of kettle corn or the breath of someone chewing a fresh piece of watermelon bubblicious. Let my legs go to people who stepped on an IED, and let them love the way old work boots feel on their new feet. Let these parts go to someone who wants to feel a little more alive than I'll be when my eyes roll away to someone who understands they're not to be used at night behind the wheel. I have degenerative hearing and a hole in my left eardrum. And when I was really young, I wore special molded earplugs when I swam. And when my sister and I would go down to the public pool in the summertime, kids would point and laugh and ask if I was wearing hearing aids. I told them they were hearing aids, and that I was the only kid around who could hear underwater like a killer whale. And for so long, I pulsed and boomed my ears with stratospheric decibel counts. I'll know my song well before I start singing. Bob Dylan's freewheeling voice and harmonica changed my sense of sound. But still, my ears could be an upgrade for someone. Maybe my unpierced, de-waxed listeners will go to one of those old timers who holds up an ear trumpet when a caregiver shouts Jello or pudding. Let my brain go to an off-the-gridder, a wild nomad, a lonely victim out for revenge. My brain will keep them preoccupied with nicotine cravings and Mel Brooks jokes, and it'll keep them from doing something monstrous with a mail bomb. Let my fingers go to a person who's slow in learning to play the guitar because calluses aren't there yet and it hurts to push down on the strings, to people who play the smoke on the water riff but lie to themselves about chords and impossibilities. Give my fingers to people who want to play Thin Lizzy songs for their friends. Give them to someone who wants to be a better player than I ever wanted to be. Let my dad have my heart. And maybe it'll buy him a couple of years of peace in Arkansas. But my lungs and my liver should be trucked out to Kettleman City, way out to the waste management plant where I used to stock nuts and bolts in the maintenance shop, seal what's left of my vitals in sea trains with toxic sludge and nuclear waste and make them go away. Nothing will be left of me to identify. What will the officials do then? They'll ask who I was. Who was this mound of teeth and chin and love handles and ass? They'll check my pockets for identification and find nothing. They'll hold these parts of me for a while in a cold drawer in a dark room to see if anyone turns up looking for me. Nobody will. And when enough time has passed, when something needs to be done with the parts of me that nobody claimed, they'll bury what I've left behind, my scraps. In Arlington, at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, known but to God is engraved in the tomb's white marble. The but means only, as it's written there, as in known only to God. It isn't true. We know this person died fighting in the First World War, and that his body was so mutilated, so mangled that nobody in his squadron could make him out. Even more than this, the whole platoon may have been wiped out, as it stands to reason that through the process of elimination, a phrase with two meanings, someone would have known who was unaccounted for when the battle ceased. We know whatever killed him destroyed the dog tags around his neck. We know he was young. We know his unknowable remains symbolize sacrifice for some, patriotism for some, the last full measure of devotion. What does God know about him that we do not then? His name, what part of the country he came from, what he dreamed about, who he dreamed about, what he wanted out of life when he returned from war. If he liked sweet pickles and potato salad, if he had a dog, if he went to bed until he was 12, if he told a good joke, if he cried when he thought about home, if he wanted to be a soldier, die a hero, if he played the trombone, if he was cruel sometimes, what he did to make his friends laugh. I'm struck by all that God knows that we do not. How's that possible? How does someone live, fight, and die so facelessly? What a lonely thing, entombed, watched over, protected, and propagandized, a mechanism in the cruel human machinery of conquest and of ordinance, of kills. At the Highland Cemetery in Oklahoma, where my great-grandpa Charlie is buried, there's a flat stone in the ground that says, unknown but to God. The but means except, as it's written there, as in unknown except to God. Thousands of people die in America unknown every year. Officials render them anonymous. I learned about some of the reasons why this happens. Sometimes people are alone in the world, and they die without a home, so they're buried unknown but to God. That sometimes people are so decomposed that it's impossible for anyone alive to identify who's God. So they're buried unknown but to God. Sometimes people disappear from those who love them. So they're buried unknown but to God. Stone inscription tells me at the Highland Cemetery along the Catfish Trail just outside of Pawnee, OK, that God is the only one who knows the person buried beneath my feet. Grave diggers knew enough, though, to know on which side of the white oaks to bury the anonymous remains. In America, sometimes the lie of race is all people need to know. God's a segregationist like any other. Segregation now, the sinners and the saints. Segregation tomorrow, the world and the way. Segregation forever, heaven and hell. Oklahoma folks, inspired by God, buried a person unknown on the opposite side of the tree line from my grandpa Charlie. And I want to do what I can to know more people, as much as anyone can be known. Let me walk among the officially anonymous and introduce myself to them. Let me ask them what they wish to be called. Ask them if there's anything they'd like me to know about their lives. Let me remember them and notice when they've gone missing before they go underground. Let me know their dreams. Let them know mine. Let's know each other all over. Not an unknown in the bunch. And when my scraps are buried in the imagined future, when all of our scraps left behind are buried, let the conclusion of our epitaphs read, unknown but to God. And let but mean only, like it does in Arlington. So passersby will understand that God's the only one who knows nothing about us. Starting over, going back to the beginning, whistling past graveyards like a singing rooster with Roger Miller's voice. Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest.